Hey, greetings everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're going to continue on with the brief of information that I've acquired for settling some issues in regards to the probated estate and various different documents of title. And as we left off yesterday, I mentioned the extrajudicial refers to something that has occurred outside of or without the authorization of the judicial system. And this is what I'm talking about with the general journal that is then incorporated in the hospital through the birth clerk and the birth log that converts that general journal with a particular statement from mom that is never qualified in any manner. It's just listed as an informant, and it creates a judicial element known as a legal name. Tonight, I do want to mention the graph from the vital statistics that we've gone over several times, the state's vital statistics jurisdiction graph about the enumeration at birth and how all that works and all the various different agencies involved. And if you look in the comment section, you'll see a couple of comments in there about the full committee, which advises the HHS, which is Health and Human Services Secretary, on health data, statistics, privacy, national health information policy, and the department's strategy to best address those issues. Those are issues, meaning, again, there's the judicial element. It's a judicial issue. It has to be ordered by administrative or judicial office and then issued. That's a judicial issue. Unless it's by the Senate. Then it's a lawful issue. Assist and advises HHS in the implementation, again, that's 48 CFR 52.212-5, those contract terms and conditions required for implementation. Now, this is telling us that something has been implemented. That means there's contract terms and conditions out there, and we're going to look into some of those here in a minute. Of the administrative simplification provisions of, hold on a second, of the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996. That's HIPAA. That's HIPAA. And notice that's health insurance portability. That's an import-export issue. It's a portability issue. Okay? So let's take a look at this. And before we do, I want to remind everybody, please hit the like, share, and subscribe button. There's a couple PayPal links in the details section below for anybody that wants to share some love. I do appreciate everybody's support. Please give it up to yourself for that. Keep coming back. One day you will find some kind of remedy in your situation, and I hope to be a large part of that. So I appreciate your support now. In the meantime, there's the StreamYard link for anybody that wants to join the panel. And we're going to get into it with our first presentation on, let me see here. The right one. There we go. And this is the administrative agreements. Administrative agreements. CMPPA, Computer Matching and Privacy Protection Agreement. Why are we talking about this? Because in 2006, they implemented the Electronic Records Act. So everything's being converted since then to an electronic record. They've actually been converting it much longer before then because of their knowing intent that yeah, the computer record is going to provide a much more efficient record keeping system. So they've been systematically implementing physical documentation into electronic records. That doesn't say that they're supposed to be able to dismiss that physical record if it's of paramount evidence. So there are things that happen that maybe should or should not happen, and this is what we're looking at. There are certain inconsistencies in laws and stuff. Purpose, also known as CMA, a type of data exchange agreement for which the Computer Matching and Privacy Protection Act applies. So it applies to the Computer Matching and Privacy Protection Act, first and foremost. And therefore, if you've got a computer or any kind of electronic device that uses that computer technology, such as a phone, that also has the digital camera and the internet services and all that, then it applies to that. Anything using this kind of technology, the new smart TVs, same thing, everything. Information exchange agreement, purpose, a type of data exchange agreement for which the CMPPA does not apply. Computer Matching and Privacy Protection Agreement and the Information Exchange Agreement is one that does not apply. Why would it not apply? Because once it enters into their system, everybody that's part of their system is no longer under the privacy protection, because now their system is public and you're part of that public system. Now, under the contracts that are presumed, there are private data elements that are privy. But again, it's because there's a presumed contract that you're presumed part of this public services trust, and you've leased your personal services to do the paperwork. It's that simple. It's the data exchange. That's the paperwork. Quit giving them data. Memorandum of understanding, memorandum of agreement, a formal written agreement signed by both parties that spells out the terms and conditions. Terms and conditions required to implement executive orders, statutes, commercial items, commercial services. It's the exact same term, and that's under federal acquisitions. They have to be able to require the information in order to then inquire as to where, when, and how, and who from they can acquire it. It's a process. There must be terms and conditions. In those terms and conditions of contract, there's privacy. Financial agreements, IAA, interagency agreements. Financial agreements are interagency agreements. Now, who are you going to have running your finances? Are you going to learn your potentiary powers and learn how to be your own bank, learn the banking system and how it works so you can conduct your own affairs? Like I've said many times, if you don't know how the banking system works, why would you hand over your financial affairs over to a banking system that over time has consistently, eons upon eons, abused its clients? Yet the bank still stands. Why? Nobody knows their value. Reimbursable agreement. Security agreements. And remember here not too long ago, we talked about those minimum state contacts. ISA, Interconnection Security Agreement. That's the SS5. That's the interconnection to begin with. Mom fills out the birth enumeration at birth for the legal establishment. Once the adult or the young man turns to be an adult or young woman turns to be an adult, fills out that SS5. Now all of a sudden they become a trustee because nobody's instructed them how to use those enumerations in the name in the proper method. so that they could conduct their own affairs and their own agreements of any sort. Instead, everything's been entered in as a financial agreement, which is an interagency agreement. We're going to take a look at a couple of those. Let's take a look at the data exchange first, again from Social Security. State data exchange model agreements. Model agreements for state administration of federally funded and state-funded benefit programs. Remember, folks, the state-funded programs wouldn't be there unless they could acquire federal funds first. The states cannot provide their own fundings. They have to do everything administratively through the cession of the state to the United States. No matter how you look at these states in these commercial agreements cannot operate on their own. They are a subsidiary. Federally funded and state administered. The administration is done at the county level. These are grants of foreign aid or foreign trade zones, where in that foreign trade zone is generated at the municipal level, where they create certificates of participation based upon the residents instead of issuing votes. They get all around that bonding situation. Computer Matching and Privacy Protection Act agreement. Agreement between the SSA and the state or state agency that covers all the essential provisions needed for a computer matching agreement, i.e. follows the requirements of the CMPPA of 1988. There are two CMPPA model agreements, state level, agency level. Agency level would be because they're an agency of the federal government. State level would be because they're an administrative department of the state. Information Exchange Agreement Federal. Agreement between SSA and the state or state agency that accompanies the state level or agency level CMPPA agreement is an attachment to the IEAF. The IEAF Federal, this is the Information Exchange Agreement Federal, describes in additional detail the type of SS or data SSA discloses for the program specified in the agreement, as well as the authorized data exchange systems, data delivery method, and additional security requirements. Remember that graph I was talking about, the state's vital statistics jurisdiction, and how it over on the far right hand side it showed the federal involvement of over 500 agencies. That information exchange agreement is very unlimited. It goes through so many agencies, it's pathetic. State funded and state funded and state administered. Information exchange agreement state. This is where they get you at that certificate of participation. They create that bond in your name as an investment in the court registry investment system, and then administrate the probated estate as if though you're dead and you don't have any powers. Not only are you presumed dead in that kind of a situation and not to have the powers, but in fact you don't have powers to administrate in those courts because you're not a corporate body that has a board of governors that can then hire an attorney to make any representations in those administrative courts. See, there's an impossibility when they do this kind of stuff, and every document that they have your signature on is in fact evidence of malfeasance of trust. Operating a probated estate is a trust matter, no matter how you look at it, and they're using it for commercial purposes, using your signature as the contractor because that's what you use on that address. So it's a presumption on both sides that everybody's operating on that needs to be busted. Really need to learn what these capacities are in these agreements. Reimbursable Information Exchange Agreement. Agreement between SSA and the state agency for the state agency's administration of state-funded programs as identified in the agreement. There is a charge to the state agency for the SSA data provided under this agreement. This is where the charges come in. SSA must seek reimbursement for the cost of performing data exchanges for the state agency's administration of state-funded programs. So those administrative courts at the state are state-funded. They're private, nonprofit corporations, and they seek charges for reimbursement costs for performing the data exchanges, where they're the ones that are getting that name, address on the one side of the counter by the clerk, and then it's merged. It's merged with a coinciding commercial record because you offered up a commercial presentation, a listing agreement. The minimum requirements of a listing agreement are basically the legal name, the city, or the street and the number, and the city, state, and zip. It's an advertisement, literally called an advertisement. I did a video on it. I have to look it up and maybe we'll do a review on that. Minimum listing agreement, or minimum requirements for a listing agreement. So anyway, I want to remind everybody real quick before we move on, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. There's PayPal links down below for anybody that wants to share some love. And then the next one is looking at Form SSA 731. Notice to electronic information exchange partners to provide contractor list. Social Security Administration requires any organization with an electronic data exchange agreement to provide the SSA regional office contact a current list of contractors and or agents who have access to SSA data upon request and the attached agency attestation of contractor use form. Now, I don't imagine I'll ever end up using it, but I'll pose it and I'll show the information that I know where on that judicial record at the administrative level, the clerk was an operation of duties where information was exchanged, and in that exchange, information was obviously merged with another record and created an investment firm, and therefore also merged the Social Security number with the investment obligor number, and that is evident by its form and qualifications on the document I got, called a financial index. Financial index. Financial index. And they merged the record. In my belief and opinion. At this point, I'm not going to call it fraud, but it would certainly show a pattern of practice with 94 cases now, a pattern of practice. So kind of unmistakable. And all I'm doing is demanding the birthright and the corrections through that record that poses a different nationality versus nativity. So the next one, make sure I'm done here. Yeah. The next one, again, Social Security. These are all Social Security information pages. So remember that. I've done my research. And again, I don't want you to believe me. I don't want you to believe the neighbor. I don't want you to believe the government. I don't want you to believe your mother, for crying out loud. I want you to do your research. This is all easy copy paste stuff. Introduction to pre-release agreements, or type it in. You know, you can't be that lazy. Just type it in. Introduction to pre-release agreements, Social Security POMS. It'll pull it up. A pre-release agreement is a written or verbal agreement between a public or penal institution and the Social Security Administration to cooperate in the processing of Title II and Title, what is that? 16 for supplemental social or supplemental security income, pre-release applications, and reinstatements. Pre-release applications and reinstatements. A written agreement is preferred, though not required, and is a non-binding means of ensuring understanding by all parties and facilitating an individual's successful integration back into the community. An individual's successful integration, integers, successful enumeration back into the community. If that's really what you want, then go ahead and be enumerated again. Okay. We are going to discuss briefly the enumeration and being re-enumerated, but it's going to have a different quality. It's going to have a different effect of being successfully integrated back into the community. It's going to be successfully denoted as separate from and itinerant upon those communities. The pre-release agreements process is slightly different for Federal Bureau of Prisons institutions compared with non-BOP institutions. Sounds like a work release program, doesn't it, folks? You see where I'm going? If you have to have a passport in order to leave the country, does that sound like a prison? Does that sound like that identification might be relative to imprisonment, indoctrination, enslavement, integration, enumerated? Just like the Jews, they put a number on their damn wrist. You better fucking wake up. You better fucking wake up. Integration to pre-release agreements. All about the imprisonment. Bureau of Prison. Bureau. Remember, Bureau. Consistently Bureau. It's statistical. They're keeping track. The identification is to keep track. I kept track of the prison number I had when I first went to prison when I was 18, 19 years old. My God, 8035 67A. It's sick. The next one is Social Security Administration invites interested parties to respond to our request for application notice in accordance with the requirements of the attached RFA number SSA NRFA 23-005 employment networks for the Ticket to Work and Self-Sufficiency Program. Come get your Willy Wonka tickets now, babies. Come on down and work as one of the slaves at the Wonka factory. This RFA replaces the prior request for application SSA EN RFA 23-0004. The RFA offers a new employment network ticket program agreement that updates the statement of work to incorporate changes to ticket program requirements, as well as introduces efficiency to ENTPA award and post-award support processes. All you're doing is working for the beast. You want a ticket to work for the beast, you're going to get gobbled up by Willy Wonka in his factory. The next one I have is the Memorandum of Understanding, Memorandum of Agreement between the U.S. Census Bureau and the Social Security Administration, establishing a joint statistical project concerning linkages of household survey data and SSA program data. It's just a big survey, people. How many of you succumbed to the demands of the census in 2020? They had everybody wrapped up in their home so that they could answer the door for the Census Bureau, right? This agreement sets forth the terms and conditions between the Department of Commerce. Been telling you all along, is Department of Commerce, U.S. Census Bureau, and SSA, under which SSA program data will be linked to survey respondents. So the SSA is merged with the census. So as soon as mom has a baby at the hospital, she's already part of the census, and that record is already merged. Now they're saying she's required to. You can quit the survey anytime you want. You can quit the survey anytime you want. One more time, repeat after me, folks. You can quit the survey anytime you want. And notice it's got the Department of Commerce. And if you're part of that survey, how come you ain't ever got paid? How come you're the one that has to pay into the Social Security Administration by getting a job as part of the Department of Commerce, making money for the Department of Commerce in that job, but never get paid for the data exchange, like the SSA, the Census Bureau, and the Department of Commerce do? How come you don't get paid for your part in the exchange of those data elements? You're the principal. You're the one that should get paid the most. But because they don't tell you this stuff, they get paid on it, and there's nothing you can do about it until you can express it. And the only way you can express it is on your own. You have to be able to stand on your own. Otherwise, you're going to be taking benefits of the SSA program, the medical and higher education. Oh, goodness. Isn't that already guaranteed as part of the domestic tranquility and general welfare of a nation that wants to grow strong and healthy? He's got to be intelligent too. Ridiculous, people. The next one I got is the computer matching agreement between the Department of Homeland Security and the Social Security Administration. Remember, folks, I told you about that address, right? That address. And yes, that land survey. Is there a military survey protecting the fisheries and wildlife? When you purchased that land, did you have to call the military in and have them do a wildlife and fisheries protective survey and include yourself as part of that wildlife and fisheries, as animal includes man, and you're a wild man living it out in the wild? Man, all natural. Got to think about this stuff, people. Again, it says parties to this computer agreement or computer matching agreement are the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and Social Security Administration. So when it comes to a matter of redressing the record, redressing it for the errors and getting them correct, these again are the people that I'm telling you we're supposed to be dealing with. These are the guys that have the agreement for that census document. Vital statistics jurisdiction. It's the statistics. That's all it is. It's to help coordinate their statistical record. How many men were employed by McDonald's? Well, that's easy. Punch in the parameters. And that statistical record will tell you how many men were employed by McDonald's. It won't tell you their private names, but it will tell you a number, the enumeration. The agreement sets forth the terms, conditions, and safeguards under which DHS will disclose information to SSA in order to identify aliens who leave the United States voluntarily and aliens who are removed from the United States. Again, They're placating that you can be in the United States when the United States is known as a debtor under UCC 9-307, and as a debtor under subsection H, it says the United States is located in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. has the 10 square mile border, and it's the United States that sits inside Washington, D.C. in all of those bureaus, in all of them drawers, in all of them files. They're nothing but the records. So how do you leave the United States? You remove the data elements from those records. Legal authority. This agreement is executed under the Privacy Act. 5 U.S.C. 552A. Records maintained on individuals. How much you want to bet? How much you want to bet? We're going to copy paste that. And look at there. Look at there. Records maintained on individuals. Do I know this code or what? That's that record maintained on that individual who has his own exclusive jurisdiction, individually known as the name and number that identifies the record. And the only reason it was created is because the given name along with the family name. Amended by the Computer Matching and Privacy Protection Act, 1988, Public Law 100-503, 102 Stat 2507. The Computer Matching and Privacy Protection Amendments of 1990, and the regulations and guidance promulgated thereunder. So again, it's a matter of private data elements that have been entered into a public record, and because of the ambiguation and obfuscation, it's become unclear as to whether you're an employee or not. So you have to sit here and go through all of these legal authorities and all these agreements and discern what is what and what is what. And again, everybody wants to say you're a who. No, I'm a what? I'm a breath of God, act of God, and every breath I take is as such. I wish other people would recognize this first and foremost, and then remember that that's the energy that gives the man the ability to move from place to place. This is called motivation. So the next thing I want to talk about in all of this is the motivation. And again, that comes down to the merits that we've been talking about. Before I do, I want to thank everybody for your support. Again, please hit that like, share, and subscribe, brothers and sisters. And there's PayPal links in the details section for anybody that wants to share some love. And then, of course, the StreamYard link, I'll go ahead and drop again real quick in case anybody does want to pop up. See here. Welcome, Mick Fegan, Jen V. The tribe is here. Welcome. Good to see you, brother. Gem Finder, Russ, Continental Ground, Norm Longstaff. Greetings, everybody. Anybody I missed, I certainly apologize. Again, I appreciate your support. So, when we're talking about the merits, we talk about the military system and how they operate on the merits and demerits system. So let's take a look. Under 10 U.S. Code, it's the general military law. Then you have the Army, the Navy and Marine Corps, and then the Air Force and Space Force. This is your every breath of life is an act of God, and it's what gives you motivation from move to place to place. This is your Air Force and Space Force. And you get to do that on the land or on the water. Okay. The reserve components, organization and administration, personnel generally. See, these are all things that this military code poses. But then when we look at the codification or the regulation, that was 10 U.S. code. That was the military. When we look at 10 CFR, it's nuclear energy. Department of Energy, Department of Energy. Subchapters, parts, and general provisions. Nuclear Waste Technical Review Board, Defense Nuclear Facilities Safety Board, Northeast Interstate Low-Level Radioactive Waste Commission. So the title and the code don't match. The titles of the code and the regulation do not match. However, we go back to 10 U.S. Code, and we see those reserves under 10 U.S. Code 12682, reserves. Because I observed wrong and served wrong in that observance, now I reserve unto my true service, discharge upon becoming ordained minister of religion. Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Before thou was cast from the womb, I ordained thee. I sanctified thee, a prophet unto the nations. Had this been instilled in me and everybody else in my life to the grain that it needed to be, so that we would be able to clearly see the distinction between the military system and its merits and demerits system, we would surely be able to present our own merits, which is the spiritual credit. Literally meaning spiritual credit. Merit literally means spiritual credit. And as we've seen a couple times now reiterated, the immigration merits hearing. The next one is reports of foreign financial accounts. Reports of foreign financial accounts. Every last one of those accounts is a foreign financial account. The banks cannot operate domestically. They have to. They can only have foreign deposits. They cannot accept domestic deposits. So they can only operate foreignly. Reports of foreign financial accounts. The reports on the foreign financial accounts aren't going to tell you where those accounts are or what they are. It's going to take astute researchers like myself and others that come with this presentation of information and show you how we've used it and how we've seen it be used. That will show you that the Social Security card under 15 USC 1602, I believe it's L, I might be wrong on that, but it's credit card. Any card, plate, or credit device used to obtain money, property, labor, or services on credit. So the Social Security card can be used to obtain those things on credit, but nobody's taught us this. They've always taught us to use the number on the front, and that when we use the number on the front, somebody else converts it, as I've shown, to an obligor number and converts the last name to a firm name in a merger of records so that they can create bonds and certificates of participation and all of this stuff in your name. The origin of the name as it relates to trusts rather than contracts. You have two given names. And in trust law, in wedlock trust law, they would name the child the first name, but they would call that child themselves in their own private settings. Out in public, they would share that second name that everybody else could call them. And no one used the last name. It was a conversion of Smith's son to, well, that was the Smith's son. His name is John. Now we have John's son and Smith's son. It's just a conversion of hiding names by converting them to something else that other people don't recognize. This is the thing about no one should know your name. You should be creative enough to create your own name. Matter of fact, you should be creative enough to create many names and operate your personage under different names. Maybe do some research on Authors Guild. See, in Authors Guilds, many authors get together and write a book. So the book has the name of several authors. But at the same time, many authors separately and distinctly write their own writings. But independently and together, they work for the same means, sharing a message. See, in an authors guild, they really don't care so much about the name. Samuel Clemens, he was more enthralled with the fact that his story caught everybody's attention, and knew it didn't matter about his name, but more about the name of the characters in the story. Those are the names everybody remembers. Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn. They have a hard time replacing or placing who the author is sometimes in some stories, but remarkably, of course, Tom Sawyer is one you can't miss. Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain. So what was the purpose of those two names? Again, it's a trust protection, a trust element that is that of protection. His first personal name, the legal name, and then he created a second legal name for its use in a second person perspective, talking about or writing about third persons. So if it's the second person that wrote it, then how does the first person get in trouble for it? They're the ones that are in contract. You can't interfere with that contract. You can contract with yourself. You can merge your own records, just like they do. You can create your own monetary system. You can create your own language. Maybe you can't do all of that all by yourself all at once, but over time in development, just like any other nation or country, an individual, single man, has a right of development, of going about and learning talents from others as he shares his talents. And as his talents grow, as he's learning from others, and then he's sharing those talents with others, and they're teaching him more talents. That's the epitome of the benefit. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So the true benefit of life is to relive, and that would be, of course, the knowledge. So anyway, we're at our 45-minute mark. I thought it might be a little bit longer tonight, but we didn't have anybody on panel again, so be it. I hope everybody comprehends what's going on, and feel free to ask questions. My information is down there, so feel free to contact me. And in the meantime, you know I love you, but I don't give a rat's ass whether you love me back or not. So may God bless you. Have a good night. We'll see you next time. Bye now.